Hello, I'm Josh, and for this year's Mental Health Awareness Week, I want to share with you my battle with postpartum depression. So, for those of you who don't know what postpartum depression is, it's a form of depression which occurs after childbirth. Predominantly it affects women, but that's not to say it doesn't affect men also. So firstly, I just want to give you a bit of a background about me. I've had a long-standing issue with mental health issues since leaving high school. Just after I left, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, and subsequent years I was diagnosed with depression. I met my partner at university in 2016, and the following year we chose to get married. It was definitely love at first sight, and we had a traditional Nigerian wedding. Of course, my wife is Nigerian, and we never just randomly had a Nigerian wedding. And then following that, we decided that it was the right time to have a baby. So we was trying for a good month or so, and we eventually did a pregnancy test, and it came out that she was pregnant, and it was the most unimaginable feeling one could have. So when we found out we were going to be parents, we was ecstatic. That combined with fear, especially considering the biggest responsibility I had at the time was putting a wash on. So, and to be fair, I actually screwed that up as well. So to be told that I'm going to be a dad and I need to step up and, nurture a child to the best of my ability, there was a bit of fear there, but I was set for the challenge. So the first thing we did when we found out we were going to be parents is what all first-time parents do: rush out and buy baby clothes and start telling people and just get caught up in the moment, really. And then we had the 12-week scan. So as we sat apprehensively waiting in the hospital waiting room for the 12-week scan, we was discussing baby names. And I just want to note as well, it was a special occasion. I decided to wear a suit, and my wife wore a lovely dress. I remember distinctly, looking back now. Remember the weather was beautiful, the sun was out, the sky was clear, and it was a fantastic day. But then that changed. The sonographer called us into the consultation room, and she introduced herself and set up her equipment and began scanning my wife's belly. We also had that projected on the big screen. While she was scanning my wife's belly, she did have a look of concern, and I was quite uneasy at that point. There was definitely a moment where there was silence between my wife and I and the sonographer, and we knew, just based on our gut feelings, that something wasn't right. And the sonographer looked up and she said, "I'm sorry." And at that point my heart just dropped, and I just knew. While I was explaining to my wife that everything was going to be okay, the sonographer, along with a consultant, came and sat down and began to explain exactly what the concern was. And unfortunately, the explanation was our baby during development had a condition called encaphocele. And essentially what that means is when the skull of our baby was forming, it never fused together. So essentially what happens is the brain tissue actually protrudes from the skull and can cause severe brain damage. And in terms of the mortality rate, it's next to none. So we had a very, very difficult decision whether we could potentially go ahead with the entire pregnancy and see what the outcome would be, whether our baby would have permanent brain damage and severe disability, or whether the baby would just simply pass away during childbirth. After a couple of months of losing our beloved baby, we attended counselling sessions with our doctors, and I also had to attend cognitive behavioural therapy to try and change my mindset, because I'd simply just lost the will to live. And over time, because they say time is a great healer, and I certainly agree it is, we developed our confidence again to start trying for another baby. After trying for a short period of time, we found that my wife was pregnant. So this time round, we weren't going to tell anybody that she was pregnant, and we weren't going to go and rush out and buy loads of baby clothes and baby things, because we really didn't want to jeopardise. We felt by telling people or doing those things, we were going to jeopardise the pregnancy. And although it probably does sound ridiculous, it did make sense to us at the time. So it came to the 12-week scan. Everything was okay. The next scan came up, and then I think we had another scan after that. And it wasn't until I had our beautiful baby in the delivery room in my arms that I knew everything was going to be okay. That feeling that you're now responsible for that little life, and you're going to give that little life the best possible upbringing you possibly can. It's a feeling that it's not explainable. So as my wife and I started to become accustomed to becoming new parents, the sleepless nights, the multiple bottle feeds, and the general nurturing that parents do, things did start to take its toll on me again. At first, I did have difficulty bonding with my new son, and I'm not sure whether it was directly because of what happened during the first pregnancy, but I felt some warped mindset that if I was to bond with the baby and for whatever reason we was going to lose him, then it would completely destroy me. So I made it a task not to bond with him. I didn't like to pick him up. I didn't show him the affection that he deserved. After a while, my wife started to realise that something wasn't quite right, and that, you know, it would be advisable if I go and see my doctor and explain exactly how I'm feeling. So I did. When I went to see my doctor, I explained all the emotions I've been feeling, or lack of, since my baby came along. I felt guilty that I never really felt that initial bond. Like you see it in the films, you see other people where they have this initial amazing bond, and you can tell that that person loves them. And I did love him, but I just couldn't show it. I found it very difficult to show our new baby that I loved him. And after explaining that to the doctor, they came to the conclusion that actually it does sound very much like you're suffering with, or I'm suffering with, postpartum depression, which is, of course, common in women, but is also common in men. And that's partly why I've decided to make this video, because I know that there are a lot of men out there who have experienced postpartum depression or are experiencing it following childbirth. And because there is limited studies out there, it doesn't mean to say that it's not a real thing. It does affect men. And if you feel that you are experiencing similar symptoms to what I did, then do go and see your GP, do go and attend counselling. And if you have a support network of family or friends, go to them, because it really does make a difference. Life is better if you're here than not. And the theme of this Mental Health Week is kindness. So to relate it to my story, I'm just going to say that you never know what battles people are going through quietly, privately. So be kind to one another, try and understand each other better, be better people. So take this message and please share it far and wide, because I'm hoping it's going to help hundreds and hundreds of people. Thank you.